Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. I'm Semio here. I will teach you the second part of topic 12, which is human development. Please turn to chapter 42, which is animal development and aging in your textbook or your e-books. In your syllabus, you're gonna learn two parts, which is the first one, early developmental stages, and also second one is human embryonic and fetal developments. These are your learning outcomes. Make sure you are able to understand and you are able to answer for every single requirement from these learning outcomes. I think everyone will agree with me if I say this baby is very cute, and this cuteness actually has a reason behind it. And the biggest reason is to increase their chance of survivability by increasing our empathy and also compassion. And the cuteness is it is a type of protection towards the baby. It's not only for humans but also apply for animals, every single animals. And as example as like kittens, puppies, bunnies, and also kids. So we are not actually discussing about the cuteness. We are more discussing about the developmental of the infant on this topic. Let's go for the first subtopic, which is early developmental stages. Under this topic, you're gonna learn the process of fertilization. In fertilization, it is involved two kind of cell, which is sperm cells and also an ovum. In sperm cell, you can see there are three distinct parts, which is we have heads here. In the head, you can find the nucleus, which bring your genetic materials, and then a chromosome, which is secretes an enzyme that being used in the process of fertilization later on. And then the second part is we call them as middle piece, where the middle piece is made up from a stack of mitochondria that provide energy for the tails to swim, which is the last part of sperm cells. The second cells that involve in fertilization actually an egg, also known as secondary oocyte. In secondary oocyte, you can see the outermost layer of oocyte is made up from corona radiata. And the functions of corona radiata is to nourish the oocytes. And once the sperm cells are able to penetrate the corona radiata, they will face the second layer, which is we call them as zona pellucida. And next one is the cytoplasm. And then the last structure here is the nucleus. A fertilization is defined when a sperm union with an ovum to form a zygote. During fertilization, only few hundred sperm will reach the oocyte. But however, the oocyte itself have a protective layer, which is the first one, the corona radiata. It is a thick layer that can be weakened by a specific enzyme. And once these sperm are able to penetrate the corona radiata, they will face the second layer, which is we call as zona pellucida. And zona pellucida can be digested by an enzyme that released by a chromosome of the sperm. Before this, I had mentioned about protective layer that can be found on oocyte. Well, this kind of protective layer is very helpful to prevent polyspermy. What is polyspermy? Polyspermy happens when a nucleus from an ovum being fused with multiple nucleus of sperm. And it is very dangerous for the zygote because the zygote can be triploid or more. And to prevent this, we have two mechanisms, which is the first one is the fast block. The fast block involve the first layer, the layer of plasma membrane, and this plasma membrane can be found under the zona pellucida. What happen is the plasma membrane will start to depolarize, and depolarization cause the sperm cannot enter the oocyte. And second one is the slow block. Slow block happens at zona pellucida. As the zona pellucida, they have the cortical granules, and these cortical granules helps them by secretes as a specific enzyme, and these cause the zona pellucida impenetrables. And after successful or the single successful of nucleus of sperm enter the oocyte, the zygote will start to form, and then the implantation will take over the process. In a summary, the process of fertilization happens when sperm start to penetrate corona radiata, and then they are successfully penetrates the zona pellucida, and then the nucleus of both cells being fused together, and last but not least is when the ovum start to block other sperm to enter the cells. A development can be defined as all the changes that occur during the life cycle of an organism. But for embryonic development, we are focusing only three major development. We have the first one, which is the cellular stages, also known as cleavage. The second one is tissue stages, also known as gastrulation. The third one is organ stages, which is also known as neurulation. In the early embryonic development, a single cell zygote will start undergo process of mitosis, and it will start to methylated to form multi-cell blastula, and this process also known as cleavage. And once this zygote reach the number of cells around 16 until 64 cells, we call them as a morula. A morula is considered a mass of cells, and later on this morula will start to form a cavity, which is a hollow cavity inside of the mass cells, and this hollow part we call them as a blastocoel. And now we are no longer call them as morula, but instead we call them as blastula. The second part of development, also known as the tissue stages, involve the process of gastrulation. And in gastrulation, the structure that being involved it is called as gastrula. And during the gastrulation, the main purpose of gastrulation is to form the germ layer. As you learned before this in your previous chapter, and germ layer, we have three kind of germ layer. The first one is the ectoderm, which is the outermost layer of the cells. The second one is mesoderm, and the last one is the endoderm. Ectoderm is the outer, mesoderm is intermediate or middle layer, and endoderm is inner layer. And for development of gastrula, you can see the blastocyst will develop into two kind of cells. The one that will be the blue one will be the ectoderm, the outer part, and the yellow one or the beige in color here will form the endoderm. So this beige color of cells will start to fold in and then will form the archenterons. Archenteron is a primitive guides, and this canteron will start getting smaller. The holes here become getting smaller, the hole here will getting smaller, and this kind of opening we call them as blastopore, or this blastopore actually will become our NS. And later, or at the late of gastrulations, you can see here we will develop into three layer, which is the ectoderm, the blue one, the beige color, which is endoderm, and the purple one is the mesoderm. This is the late part of gastrulation. After gastrulation, we will proceed with the next process, which is called as neurulation. Well, actually, neurulation is the last stages of development, and it is involved the nervous system. As you can see here, at the part of embryo, a dorsal part of embryo, it will start to become thickening, the purple color, and this thickening part we call them as neural plate. And beside the neural plate, we have the green part, which is we call them as neural plate border. And this neural plate border will form the neural folds, and this green part will fuse to each other later on. And the green part, which is the neural plate, will start to fold into V shape, and later on it will form the tube like this. And you can see there is a structure here beside the neural tube, which is we call them as neural crest. I will explain later on. And this neural tube, it will form our nervous system, and at the anterior parts of the neural tube, it will form into our brain, and the rest of it will form the spinal cords. While neural crest, it will help in the form of our skins and muscles, adrenal medulla, and also ganglia of our PNS. Just now we just learned about the process of neurulation, and this process of neurulation only happens on the ectoderm, while the mesoderm and also endoderm haven't been covered yet in this process, which is the last stages of embryonic development. In mesoderm, we have a structure that nearby the neural plates, neural groove, and also neural tube, which is we call them as notochord. Only part of the mesoderm will become the notochord, and the rest of the mesoderm here, you can see here, will become a somite. All right, a somite will be associated will be our muscles, and also being our exoskeleton, and along with our vertebrae. And the next one, which is the endoderm, the innermost layer, will start to form our primitive guts. And apart from it, we are also developing the heart, which is in the form of simple tube pump. Let's continue with the second subtopic, which is human embryonic and fetal development. In this subtopic, actually, we are focusing and discussing about the human pregnancy. And normally, for human, the durations for pregnancy is about 9 months. And the first 2 months, we are focusing on formations of major organs, such as hearts, brains, liver. And after 2 months, we will start to refine our organ, and make sure this major organ become larger and can support the body. Human pregnancy also can be divided into trimester. The first trimester is about embryonic and fetal development. This one is the process when the morula, blastulations, gastrulation, neurulation happens. And then we go for the second trimester, which is more focusing on developing organs and organ system. And by the end of this trimester, we can see that the fetus start to be appearing like humans. And the last trimester, which is fetus grow rapidly and organ systems start to functional. Even though human is in the highest evolutionary tree, but then we are still remain few characteristics from the last evolution. For example, from the reptiles, we are tend to have the same embryonic membranes. As example, we have the chorions, which is for the gaseous exchange. For this one, we can find in the chicks, and also for the humans here, which is the outermost. It is not the outermost, but it is on the outer part of the chick and humans. And the second one, we have the amnions. Amnion is inside of the chick here, and also we also have in the human. And this amnion, we have the amniotic fluid to prevent any shock from the external. And the next one, we have the allantois, which is to collect all the waste product. And then last but not least, we have the yolk sac. Okay, yolk sacs, the yellow part of the eggs, actually not only can be found in the eggs of the reptiles, but also can be found in human. But we are not totally depend on the yolk sac as much as the reptiles. For the first week of the pregnancy, the morula start to transform into blastula, and in mammals, the blastocysts start to form. Implantation will happen on the second week of pregnancy. As you can see here, we have the blastocyst, where the blastocyst here, we have a structure we call as inner cell mass. Inner cell mass is responsible for the process of implantation. And after implantation happens, at the same time, the gastrulation also being start until it reach the late of gastrulation. On the third week, the process of neurulation happens, and nervous system and also circulatory system start to appear. On fourth and fifth week, our body stalk connect the embryo, tails, and with the chorion for the gaseous exchange. And then we will start have the umbilical cords, and a part of it we also will have a limb buds here. The first limb buds here will be form the our hands, and then the second limb bud here, the below part, is will form our legs. And also we have a large head here, and developing our sense organs such as eye, ears, and also nose. On 6th to 8th week, we will start have a neck region, and also we are start giving a reflex. In 10th week, our placenta will fully form, as the placenta is important in gases exchange, nutrients, and also waste. And this placenta also producing progesterone and estrogen. This kind of hormone is very important, as it helps in preventing us to form a new follicles, and also it is to maintain our uterine lining. If the progesterone is being dropped, the uterine lining will be not thick enough, and the miscarriage will be likely to happen. In the third month, the fetal will grow in size rapidly, and their genitals start to appear, and their body hairs such as hair, eyebrows, eyelashes start to growing along with the nails. On the fourth month, mother can feel the movement and also can hear the heartbeats of the fetals. If a baby is being born after 6 months, they may have a chance to survive, but however, their lungs are still immature. This is the figure for fetals around 6 to 7 months, and also we have the placenta cross section here. As in the placenta, we have a structure that we call as chorionic villi. This chorionic villi is very important, as the exchange of molecule between fetals and maternal blood being take place. Last but not least, we go for the stages of birth. For stages of birth, it is involved the hormonal regulation. As you can see here, the estrogens, prostaglandin, and oxytocin is the responsible hormones which cause the uterus to contract and expel the fetus. Process of birth, also known as parturition, which has 3 stages. The first one is the dilation of cervix. Dilation of cervix allows the babies to getting out from the wombs, and once the head is getting out from the wombs, the baby will be pulled out. Then it will undergo the second process, which is the birth of baby. And last but not least, the placenta will be delivered out from the body, as the placenta cannot be remain in our body. And you did it! Hooray! That's all for today. Thank you everyone. Have a nice day. Bye.